who are evil. Stop! Don't watch me film unless you're gonna get in here and talk about books with me.
Nah. I was just adding to the blooper reel that you have to do.
Thank you. Somebody compared books that have nothing to do with each other.
Diabolical.
Diabolical.
I just posted to everybody that I'm starting Cemetery Boys tomorrow again, and that they should all read it.
Aww. You
It's fuck Texas.
Fuck Texas. Hi, my name's Rachel, and today we're going to talk about bad book comparisons. Listen, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. It's just that I saw this thread on Twitter comparing books, and a couple of them were like, yeah, I can understand that, but some of them were so weird and outlandish that I ended up sending them to the group chat, UDR, and I was like, am I losing my marbles, or is this weird to ridiculous on some sort of scale? And we were in agreement, and I said to Lo, I should do a video talking about these weird and ridiculous comparisons, and Lo was like, yes. So here we are. I was gonna film this 2 days ago, or yesterday? I don't know. I was gonna film this sooner, but then I didn't. What we're not gonna do is go bother anybody who made this thread, because I'm sure it was not in any sort of like bad vibes, but it just, I have comments. I have constructive critiques to make. Oh, and by the way, this is a thread that is comparing things like vibes and things that people liked in books between YA books and adult books. So they're saying, if you liked this YA book, try this adult book. And a few of them worked. I'm only here to talk about the ones that I think are ridiculous, which was a handful. I picked the 4 most ridiculous ones, and we will talk about them. So the first one is my most hated book of all time versus a book that I actually quite enjoyed. So it's, if you liked Caraval, try The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Now, I'm not saying Addie LaRue doesn't have its problems, it absolutely does. But it says, both stories feature a main character in an ethereal, magical setting. Both characters are romantically entangled with the puppet master, my phone closed, that is complicating their life, who seemingly has Jesus Christ, Rachel. Who has seemingly limitless power. So the second part, kind of, but the first part, both stories feature a main character in an ethereal magical setting. No, that's not true. Addie LaRue is set in France and then in New York. And the only magic is that there's this dark god that she called upon who made a deal with her, and that deal fucked her over. If you want to call New York magical, I guess you could, but it certainly is not ethereal. Meanwhile, Caraval is set in a fantasy and is a fucking ridiculous book. I mean, it's so convoluted. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Stephanie Garber was literally like, a plot? Where? Whomst? I don't like those. I won't do that. And people constantly try to talk to me about it. And they're like, oh, well, it's all a game. It was everything a game even before we got to Caraval? Because the whole book does not make sense. The whole thing. Video on that to come if I feel like delving into the comments on my Caraval video. So I just feel like that does not make any sense. The obvious comparison that everybody makes is if you would like something like Caraval, where it's got kind of a whimsy element, like a magic that doesn't really get explained, and it's very like, oh, nothing makes sense, but it's kind of fun. But people make the comparison to The Night Circus. I think that there are quite a bit of differences, and honestly I think that a lot of people who prefer YA are going to be utterly bored with The Night Circus, but there is a comparison to be made there. There's also a comparison to be made between Caraval's sort of magical circus element and the magical circus element in, say, The Inheritance of Orchidia Divina. However, that storyline is a very small part of that whole book, so I don't know, there really isn't an adult book that translates, that like directly correlates, that I feel like I would say, like, if you loved Caraval, you will love the, you know, blankety blank. I don't feel it, and it certainly is not Addie LaRue. Alright, the next one is, if you oh, Sel did not like this one. If you liked Cinder, try Black Sun. Oh no. Both are sci-fi epics with diverse ensemble casts working together and a light found family vibe. I have to be honest that I have not actually read Cinder. I did have it on my shelf and I unhauled it recently because I just feel like I'm never gonna read it and I'm probably not gonna like it. I feel like I'm past the time when that was like something I would have enjoyed, and now I'm just like, eh. So I put it into my little free library. If you don't get out of there, ma'am, psst, get out of the hamper. I feel like I'm past the point in my life where I really would have enjoyed Cinder, and I'm not gonna try to like read something that I know I'm going to find mediocre probably, so I'm not gonna do that to myself. I'm not gonna do that to the book. I don't know this for sure, but Sel did mention it to me that there is sort of like cultural appropriation of East Asian culture in Cinder, versus Black Sun is written by Rebecca Roanhorse, and it is not a sci-fi, it is a fantasy. And it, yeah, features an ensemble cast. There's multiple POVs, but I wouldn't say they're working together. In fact, I think that the efforts of many of the different POVs, it's been about a year since I read Black Sun, but what I remember is that some of the POVs, like, their efforts directly contradict each other. Like, they're trying to do completely opposite things and serve completely opposite gods. So what? I don't know what they're talking about, a found family trope. If you know what they're talking about as far as found family in Black Sun, can you put it down below? Because truly, I have no clue. Like, I don't think there's any found family in Black Sun. Black Sun is also not a sci-fi, it is a fantasy. So all of this, it's just like, did we read the same Black Sun? Is there a different Black Sun that I should know about? Because I feel like that's a different book. I would say if you liked Black Sun and you do want a YA sci-fi for whatever reason, you might like Claudia Gray's sci-fi trilogy. It's got dual POVs that are initially working for like opposite ideas, but eventually they come together, and one of them is like AI, artificial intelligence. So if that is for some reason something that you're looking for, I would say read Claudia Gray's books. The next one is if you liked Legendborn, try Ninth House. Both are dark academia light. What? Both are dark academia light stories with secret societies, romance, and intrigue, as well as a dash of magic. What? Okay, so first of all, dark academia light, I don't think that exactly Legendborn falls into dark academia, does it? I would say it's more like, isn't that more of urban fantasy, since the school takes such a backseat and it's more of the secret societies thing? Whereas Ninth House, like the people who are evil. Stop, don't watch me film unless you're gonna get in here and talk about books with me.
Nah, I was just adding to the blooper reel that you have to do.
Thank you. Somebody compared books that have nothing to do with each other.
Diabolical.
Diabolical.
I just posted to everybody that I'm starting Cemetery Boys tomorrow again, and that they should all read it.
Aww. You
fuck Texas.
Fuck Texas. I guess Legendborn could be classified as dark academia. It doesn't really read that way. It reads more like urban fantasy. It's more like, yeah, like there's a school, but secret societies play more of a role than the school. Although I guess that in Ninth House, the secret societies and the school are like inextricably linked. Whereas I don't feel like that was the case in Legendborn, because they had like a presence. Obviously it's King Arthur long before the school. Like the school could be any school. The school could take a back seat. But Ninth House is like very inextricably the secret societies of Yale. They do both have secret societies, so I guess that's if you're looking for a YA book with secret societies, yeah, to transfer into, I like that element. I might like that in an adult book. Yeah, that is true. But dark academia light, there's not a thing light about Ninth House. It's extremely very dark academia. It's just dark. It's just dark. Intrigue, yeah, I guess. Duh, it's a book. And a dash of magic. I would call Ninth House a dash of magic for sure. It's not a dash in Legendborn. It's pretty heavy on the magic. And there's also two different kinds of magic. So, and Bree is able to tap into both of them, our main character. And that's a huge part of of that journey for her. So I would not call it a dash. I don't know that these really have anything in common except school secret societies. The magics are not the same. Also, the whole theme of like Ninth House really bothered me because it was like, you know how people are oppressed because of classism and racism, and you're like, yeah, and they're like, here we do that with magic, and you're like, oh, okay, and then there's nothing. But Bree experiences all of those things, so that's a theme for her, that's a lived experience for her, so that's quite a big part of the book, that's quite a big part of Bree's character and her experiences. So yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think that works at all. And then the last one, this does not make a lot of sense to me. So this says, if you liked The Wrath and the Dawn, you might like the Winter Night Trilogy. I guess. Both series are lyrical with gorgeous prose, storytelling, true, and enemies to lovers that grows into something soft and beautiful. Both draw heavily on cultural myths. Yes, that last part is true, but if you're hoping to see the same thing that you saw in Wrath and the Dawn, like the romance that blooms there that's very enemies to lovers, in The Bear and the Nightingale, you are going to be gravely disappointed, like extremely disappointed. Here's what happens. The romance is so light in The Bear and the Nightingale. It's not, I wouldn't even call it a romance. It's this dark god who like occasionally simps after our main character, and she's like, I have things to do. That's it. Like that's it. Especially in the first book, like what are you talking about? I have no clue what they're talking about. I also think that the settings are so wildly different, and setting is such a huge key element for The Bear and the Nightingale. Also, the pacing on these is wildly different, and people have a lot of trouble with the pacing in The Bear and the Nightingale. So I think that like not warning readers about that is gonna make them have a bad time, because The Wrath and the Dawn is so quick, because you're watching this girl and she's like on death's doorstep, right, because of the circumstances surrounding this king. And The Bear and the Nightingale is not that at all. Not that. It is long, like it feels long reading it, but if you enjoy the atmosphere, the dark, eerie woods atmosphere, and you are really into how Catherine Arden writes, then you're gonna have a good time. But if you're not into how Catherine Arden writes, which is not similar to Renee Ahdieh at all, you're gonna have a bad time. So I don't really feel like these work. I feel like if you enjoyed The Wrath and the Dawn, you should just try Renee Ahdieh's adult series, The Beautiful, The Damned, The Righteous, her vampire series, because if you really love the way that she writes, try those. I think that maybe if you like the way she writes, you might like Laini Taylor, so you could try that. But I can't think of a single thing similar between Catherine Arden's writing and Renee Ahdieh's. Like, that just does not work. If you have any comparisons that you feel work better than the ones that are given, put them down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!